So thank you everyone for joining me for Open Minds, Open Hearts. This is Dustin Ganay, and I'll be your meditation guide today for session 8, Inner Dialogues, conversations between our conditional mind and our inner knowing. So we're gonna spend some time tapping into our inner wisdom, into our intuition and our heart space. And then I'll lead you guys through an inner knowing meditation as well. And for those that have been following along the last few sessions, I've gotten into a theme of writing poems as part of my guided meditation, and the theme continues. I have a new poem that I want to share with you guys as well. So that should be fun. In case you missed the last session, session 7, that is on my YouTube page. And we talked about fostering focus through mindful awareness. And we did a guided meditation on focus and did some box breathing. And so a really good one in case you're having trouble with a lot of distractions and kind of the mental monkey mind. Check out session 7 on my YouTube. As always, for the folks that have been here, these sessions are free, but if you'd like to leave a donation, it's always appreciated. My Venmo and PayPal is in my emails or in the descriptions on my YouTube channels. So always appreciate that. And if you have friends or family that you think may be interested in these sessions, please email me, dustin@openmindsopenhearts.org. And I'd love to invite them, get them on the mailing list. We got some new folks today, which I'm so happy about. So yeah, let's keep the community growing, our collective consciousness growing. So with that, let me share a few slides with you guys. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen, and let me get that going here. Okay. All right. Oh, one moment. Let me just get it set up. Okay. Let's try that again. And here we go. All right. That should do it. Great. So session 8, inner dialogue, conversations between our conditional mind and our inner knowing. And this one, I've been thinking a lot about this lately, and kind of inspired by our last session too, where we were fostering focus. We talked about samadhi and getting into this state of meditation where our mind starts to quiet down and we really find this deep inner peace in this place of inner knowing. And I think we're probably more familiar with kind of the conditional mind or the monkey mind. It's basically the way that our mind reacts to the conditional world in which we live, right? Our thoughts, feelings, emotions, all being triggered by different conditions and stimulus in our lives. And that's fine. And that's part of our daily lives, but there is this deeper sense of inner knowing that we can often tap into through our intuition, right? And through our heart space. And we also connect to that through mindfulness and meditation. So I'm hoping that we can become a little bit more aware of that inner dialogue, as many of those voices can be destructive in our heads. The fear, the doubt, the worry, the anxiety, it can really start to build up, and those narratives can start to drag us down and pull us in a downward spiral. Or there is that kind of more positive mind, the cultivation of compassion and kindness, this unconditional state of love, free from time and space, where your heart is free. And really that's the liberation and the space that we want to reach through our meditation practice. And some would say maybe it's a bit more advanced than your beginner level, but I think we all know it's there. You know, even if it was just when we were a child, running freely, playing with toys, we were so present and in the moment. And so we're really just trying to capture that presence once again through our practice. So with that, let's talk a little bit about what we're going to do. So we're going to set an intention. We're going to read a few inspired writings, talk a little bit about mindfulness and the Buddhist perspective on cultivating wisdom. I will share a personal story, and then we'll go into a guided meditation on cultivating our inner knowing. And then at the end, we'll have a little dialogue as well. So let's go ahead and set our intention for this session. And I love this quote from Doug Buckingham. He says, "Magical things happen when you align your intention, your imagination, and your intuition." And so if you want to align your intention with your intuition and imagination, you could do that. Some other intentions may be to become more aware of the inner dialogue in our heads. My intention is to cultivate more positive inner dialogue and spend less time focusing on negative inner speech. My intention is to tap into inner knowing and wisdom, letting go of expectations and accepting the present moment. So let's go ahead and just take a moment to reflect on your intention for today's session, for cultivating inner knowing, inner wisdom, intuition, today, tomorrow, and beyond. And hopefully an intention has come to you. Usually the first one is the one to go with. And so we'll go with that. Okay. So let's take a look at some inspired writings. So this one is from Veronica Tuglevia. I'm probably butchering that name. I just discovered her recently online. She's a kind of health and wellness spiritual guide. And she says, "Our inner wisdom is persistent but quiet. It will always whisper, but it will never stop knocking at your door." And I really love that. You know, when we think about our heart's calling, it's often kind of this voice in the back of our heads that we may quiet down because, you know, we have other obligations or priorities in our lives, you know. But when we listen to that quiet whisper of inner wisdom, it's so rewarding, and it leads us to so many opportunities. And I know for myself, my inner wisdom was calling me to do these sessions. And you know, I have a day job, but these sessions really are my heart's inner knowing expressing itself. Steve Jobs, not our usual meditation guru, although he did study with some of the gurus in India. So he said, "Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. Don't be trapped by dogma, which is living with the results of other people's thinking. Don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your own inner voice. And most important, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition." And that was from his famous Stanford graduation speech. And I mean, he just hits so many important points. And, you know, you look at his own life, he certainly had a lot of troubles in his life, but the one thing is he really did follow his intuition. And, you know, at a time when people thought he was crazy for the technology that he was creating and trying to create, from getting ousted out of Apple and then coming back in early 2000s to then give us the iPod and the iPad and the iPhone. You know, all of this came from following his intuition. He didn't listen to what people told him when Microsoft was the big deal in the 90s. He kept going, and he was really passionate about his vision. And so I think there's a lot of power in that. And of course, the Buddha tells us that just as treasures are uncovered from the earth, so virtue appears from good deeds, and wisdom appears from a pure and peaceful mind. To walk safely through the maze of human life, one needs the light of wisdom and the guidance of virtue. And of course, the Buddha, always full of wisdom. I love this idea that virtue comes from good deeds and wisdom appears from a pure and peaceful mind. And I think in our last session on focus and samadhi, we talked about kind of this mountain lake mind, as I called it, this just pure stillness that when we can really achieve it, there's so much wisdom that comes from that quiet, peaceful, meditative state. And when we can combine our good deeds and our actions as part of that, it really, our daily life and our meditation life, they all start to work together for our benefit and the benefit of others. So some great wisdom. I wanted to just share a few ideas around inner wisdom from a Buddhist perspective, since for myself, I've been doing a lot of research on this side, and kind of starting with the blockers to wisdom. And so the Buddha talks about the 5 hindrances. And essentially these 5 hindrances often block us from tapping into that inner wisdom or that inner knowing. And so the 5 hindrances, the first one is sensual or sensory desire. So this is any kind of desire that comes from the 5 senses: sight, sound, smell, taste, and physical feeling. And actually he even includes the 6th sense, which is the mind, and kind of the desires of the mind. So, you know, so there's a lot that could be said there, but it's more than just kind of sexual desire or that kind of thing. It's, you know, cravings for food or alcohol, or cravings for certain sensations, certain sights. It's really that craving mind that we're trying to address. The other one is aversion or ill will. So this could be feelings of hostility, resentment, hatred, bitterness. Aversion definitely will not allow us to go into our meditation and find that place of inner wisdom. So it's important that we stay aware of that aversion. And these are more extreme examples, but it could even be subtle, you know, like our aversion to a noise that a neighbor is making. And so now I can't meditate and my neighbor just ruined my meditation. You know, it can be very small things as well that we have aversion to that stop us from tapping in to our inner knowing. Sloth and torpor, the heaviness of the body, you know, so this could be that maybe we're just not getting enough sleep. You know, if we're consistently falling asleep during meditation, you know, that's something. The meditation often brings things to our awareness that we need to pay attention to. So feeling tired, feeling exhausted, that's also important to pay attention to. And you know, there's a variety of ways to address that. Walking meditation is one way. if the sitting meditation, if you keep falling asleep, experimenting with walking meditation could be one approach for that. Restlessness and worry. So I think we all can relate to this one. Stress and anxiety with COVID and fires and racial injustice. There's so many things happening in the external world that it's easy for us to lose sight of our own mental and spiritual health and well-being. And so that's where we want to stay mindful of the restlessness. And then the last one is doubt, which is a lack of faith or conviction or trust. Just, doubting in ourselves, doubting in others. But it really starts with doubting in ourselves. When we're constantly beating ourselves up, when we're judging ourselves, when we're doubting ourselves in all different capacities of life, it really is destructive, and it takes that inner light and freedom that's available in our hearts. It kind of closes the door on that, and so we want to be mindful of that doubt, especially the doubt in ourselves, so that we can start to open up the gate of our heart and let that light shine. So kind of addressing the 5 hindrances is the first step in the Buddhist perspective. And then the second step is what's called the jhanas, which roughly translates from Pali into meditation. So meditation is often referred to as jhana, or meditative absorption. So basically, how deep of a meditative state are you getting into? And that's kind of the idea of the jhanas, is when we practice the jhanas, we get into a deeper and deeper state of meditation. So the first one is detachment from the 5 hindrances that we discussed, those unwholesome states. But our thoughts are still active. So we haven't quieted the mind yet, but we've at least addressed the 5 hindrances. And so now we're kind of getting ready to go into that meditative state. The second jhana is the thoughts start to quiet down, giving way to feelings of rapture and happiness through samadhi, through that unification of mind, like we discussed in session 7. And then the rapture kind of starts to fade, and a quietness starts to come to our presence. Peaceful mind and feelings of pervasive happiness are still there. So we're just kind of in this joyful, peaceful state. And then the fourth jhana, the pleasantness, the unpleasantness, the happiness, they all kind of dissipate. And we're just left with this profound sense of peace, stillness, and equanimity. And so this is kind of a Buddhist perspective. I wouldn't get too hung up on needing to achieve these different jhanas in your own practice. For more advanced meditators that want to experiment with this, I say, go for it. But ultimately, this is kind of like getting your PhD in meditation, I guess you could say. But I think we can all, even as beginners, I think we could all learn a thing or two from some of these steps. So we talked about some traditional Buddhist perspective. What does science tell us about inner wisdom, or in other words, intuition, right? There's not a lot of research on intuition. As you might guess, it's a bit difficult to measure intuition. But an interesting study out of New South Wales, Australia in 2016, they used subliminal imagery. So basically images that were shown to research participants for a millisecond. So it was so fast that the conscious mind could not register it, but it was enough of an image for the unconscious mind to register the image. And essentially these participants, they were completing various tasks on a computer screen. And so researchers wanted to know if they flashed a positive image, like say a puppy or a baby, would the research participants, would they perform the task better than if they flashed a negative image such as a gun or a snake? And what was really fascinating is that they actually found that the participants that got the positive images, they did better on their tasks, they were quicker to complete the tasks, and they were also more accurate in completing those tasks, which is really kind of an interesting finding that at a subconscious level, when we're registering positive images in this case, our performance, our focus tends to do better, right? And then of course the inverse was true. When participants saw the negative images, they made more mistakes, they didn't complete the tasks as quickly. And also this study found that intuition can be developed with practice. So it is actually a muscle, if you will, that we can kind of work out over time. And so the study showed that information subconsciously perceived in the brain will help with decisions if that information holds some value or extra evidence beyond what people already have in their conscious mind. So I think that's a great testimony that intuition can be another layer of information that perhaps our logical mind hasn't processed yet, but there's a certain depth and wisdom in following that intuition. And, and it's different for everybody. So with that, I just wanted to share my personal journey with intuition and inner wisdom. A few sessions back, I shared with you guys that I work at a technology company that's been impacted by COVID-19. And about 2 months ago, people that were on my team, people that I hired, were furloughed because of the impacts of COVID-19. And I was on vacation in Yosemite at the time when I got the call. And so I spent a lot of time kind of meditating on impermanence while I was in Yosemite. And I found this incredible hillside. And as I was meditating on this hillside, I noticed that the forest below me was impacted by a forest fire several years earlier, which is kind of even more haunting considering all the fires that we've had just in the recent weeks here in California. But as I was reflecting on impermanence and kind of seeing these dead trees, I also realized all the new life that was able to come up through the ground because of that fire. Now we do have extreme fires which have their own issues, but when natural fires occur, they do often help the forest regenerate and regrow. And so what seems like a very tragic event, and often is a tragic event, does give way to new life and new growth ultimately. And so for myself, I actually also got the notice. Actually, our last meditation session 2 weeks ago, literally right after that session, my boss's boss called me, and I knew exactly why he was calling me. And he told me I was also furloughed and that my entire team that I spent almost 5 years building was gone. There was only 2 of us left, and our last day was yesterday. So today is my first day starting new. And it's been many weeks of processing that. Certainly some sad moments, a lot of recalling and remembering the good times, maybe some anger about how things went down. But ultimately, there is this inner knowing and inner wisdom that this too shall pass, that this one door closes and another door opens. And for me, that's what's keeping me going. and this meditation and mindfulness practice is keeping me going and giving me hope to continue, that while this one door has closed, a new door will open, a new opportunity will arise. There'll be new people to meet, new challenges to face, and life will go on. And it will go on. I'm grateful. I live in America. We have material comforts beyond our beliefs. I can file for unemployment. I can interview for new jobs. I already am. So I feel very hopeful about the future. I have a roof over my head. I have food in my belly. There's so much to be grateful for, and being grateful for this challenge in my life too. If I'm being really tapping into my inner wisdom, being grateful for the new chapter and the new opportunities that may arise. So I hope that inspires you to kind of face your fears and your challenges with a new open awareness. And with that, let's go ahead and dive into that inner knowing, to that guided meditation space. So go ahead and find a nice, easy seat. Get comfortable. Find a nice, comfy chair with back support. If you're on the ground, preferably have some back support. And let's go ahead and begin. So let's go ahead and begin to settle in to our meditation space, as today we are going to cultivate our inner knowing and wisdom, tapping into our intuition, quieting the monkey mind, and really listening to our hearts. And as always with our practice, if the mind continues to chatter, that's okay. Just remember to come back to the breath. And the breath is your anchor in your safe place to reset and begin again. So let's start with a few deep breaths. So deep breath in through the nose, filling up the diaphragm, nice and easy, and release. Releasing through the mouth, feeling the belly decompress. And a deep breath in through the nose, filling up the diaphragm, and release. Releasing through the mouth, letting all that carbon dioxide out. And deep breath in, breathing in that sweet oxygen, filling up the lungs, and release. Slowly letting that breath out. And just begin to arrive. Aware of the breath, aware of our bodies, coming into that quite peaceful inner wisdom. And I'd like us to imagine that our hearts are the doorway to our inner wisdom and inner knowing. And if you'd like, you could even put a hand or two over your heart as a way to remember how to enter this space of inner wisdom and knowing. It's available to us at all times when we take the time to go. And I'd like you to feel the unconditional love and kindness that's available to you in your heart space. When you don't judge it, when you just be with your presence, not caught in the past or projecting into the future, just being with this light of love that's radiating from your heart, from your soul. And I'd like us to imagine that our hearts are this beautiful secret garden that is a beautiful garden only available to ourselves, and that the garden is protected by walls of mercy and grace. And at the gate of this garden is a guardian of mindfulness. And this guardian of mindfulness is being aware of both positive and negative emotions. And it's really protecting us from the fear, the doubt, the worry. It's keeping those things out of our heart and only allowing positive, uplifting feelings of joy, happiness, gratitude, letting all of this love and light into the garden of our hearts. And as we explore the garden, we may see plants and flowers and trees, beautiful memories and virtues and abilities that we've cultivated over time. We may see parts of our heart that maybe are under development. Maybe they're just a small little seed, just waiting to be reborn. Just a little sapling of a feeling or a virtue that we're developing in our hearts. And we just want to show some loving awareness to that place in our hearts. That place where new seeds and new ideas and feelings are born. And just bring a nurturing hand, like the way that the gardener tills the soil and uses the fertilizer and the water and the sun to give this sapling its greatest opportunity to grow. So too, we are the gardeners of our hearts, of our loving kindness and compassion, cultivating for ourselves and for others. And we also see in this garden mighty, powerful trees with deep roots and tall trunks. And these are spaces where we've spent some time developing our attributes and virtues of the heart: kindness, generosity, understanding, getting outside of ourselves and really serving others. We see these mighty trees of our practice over time. You could even put a hand on one of those trees and just say thank you. Thank you for guiding me. Thank you for protecting me and protecting this garden of my heart. And this sanctuary, this secret garden in our hearts, it's being enveloped with this pure light of unconditional love and awareness. Such a feeling of peace and equanimity is available to us in this space. We're free in this space. We're liberated from time and space. And just know that this garden of the heart, this space of light and love, your inner wisdom and inner knowing, it is available to you when you just remember to breathe, to return mindfully to your inner wisdom and knowing. This place is available to you at all times, even in the hardest of conditions. Just remember to take a step back and breathe. Come back to your inner knowing and wisdom. And I'd like to share with you a poem that I've written. It's called The Knowing Mind. Inner dialogue, the worried and the wise, clearing out the fog in my knowing mind. Restless mind is lost, perpetual pleasure traps. Inner peace the cost, my story takes another lap. I am not my story. Who am I? I am the gift of glory. I am the watcher behind the eye. Monkey mind chasing, external distractions, scattered thoughts racing, divided into factions. I am the singularity. I am the moon. I am the sun. Distractions turn to clarity, where mind and heart are one. Destructive mind's voice, incessant in its assault, says I have no choice, and everything is my fault. Knowing mind holds me, nurturing my hurt, showing me I am free when I realize my worth. Fears, doubts, and worries, acknowledge when they arise, sometimes teaching lessons, but often selling lies. Knowing mind is truth, darkness turns to light. The arrogance of youth transforms into insight. Head and heart connected, channel the divine. My soul is resurrected in my knowing mind. Outer forces pull me. They can't take my shine. From inner forces I see in my knowing mind. In my knowing mind, in our knowing mind, inside the greater knowing, you will know. So I hope you've been able to touch your knowing mind, your inner wisdom, and as we begin to conclude our session, just know that your inner wisdom and inner knowing and intuition is here to serve you, that we live in a supportive, loving universe that is here to support you, and that the mind that tells us that the universe is not here to support us is not telling us the truth. That when we tap into our inner wisdom, we know we are all loved and supported by this all-knowing, all-loving universe. And we all have a great capacity to develop this inner wisdom and share it with ourselves and with others. Thank you for sharing your practice with me. Namaste.